You know that moment. You send a text. Then you stare at your phone. Then you tell yourself not to care. But you do. Because when a woman starts pulling back, sounding different, replying shorter, or feeling just a little harder to reach, something in you feels it immediately. Not always in your head first, in your body, in your chest. In that tight, restless feeling you get when you can tell something has shifted, even if you can't prove it yet. And the thoughts start coming fast. Did I say too much? Am I coming on too strong? Why was she so into this before? What changed? What actually makes someone stay interested? What makes a woman think about you when you're not there? Here's the truth most people get completely wrong. A woman does not think about you constantly because you impressed her the most. She thinks about you because something about being with you felt different in her nervous system. Not more intense, not more dramatic, not more confusing. Safer, more real, more emotionally alive. So no, you're not failing because you're not playing games. And this is not about becoming someone fake, smooth, or manipulative. It's about understanding the few behaviors that make your presence linger in her mind long after the conversation ends. By the end of this video, you'll understand the 7 behaviors that make a woman keep replaying your energy, your words, and the way she feels around you, and why the men who create that kind of impact are almost never the ones trying the hardest to be unforgettable. Let's get into it. Most people believe attraction is about being impressive, being funnier, more attractive, more successful, more mysterious. But the real truth is deeper than that. People do not get attached to perfection. They get attached to emotional experience. That's the part most people never slow down enough to understand. A woman's mind might notice how you look. Her attention might notice what you say. But her nervous system is reading something underneath all of that before her mind can even catch up. It is constantly asking, do I feel seen here? Do I feel safe here? Do I feel pressure here? Do I feel like I can relax into myself here? And bro, that changes everything. Because when a woman keeps thinking about you, it usually isn't because you performed better. It's because you made connection feel easier. Most people in relationships and dating keep focusing on tactics. What to text, how long to wait, how to seem valuable, how to stay in control. But here's what nobody explains. The people who stay in your mind are usually the people around whom you felt most like yourself. That is attachment. That is emotional memory. That is why one calm, grounded, deeply present interaction can outlast 10 flashy ones. Not mind games, not forced confidence, not some scripted line you copied from a podcast. Real presence, real attunement, real emotional steadiness. And once you understand that, the behaviors that truly make a woman think about you start to make a lot more sense. Number 1, he pays attention to what lives beneath the words. Most men listen for information. The men women remember listen for emotion. Most people in relationships miss this completely because they think good communication is just hearing the sentence. But the real connection happens when you hear the feeling beneath the sentence. Because most of the time, she is not only telling you what happened, she's revealing what it meant to her. And her nervous system knows the difference instantly. If she says, "Work was exhausting today," most people hear a report. But beneath the surface, she might be saying, "I feel overwhelmed," or "I don't want to carry everything alone," or even, "Please meet me gently right now." Here's a real-life difference. The disconnecting version sounds like this. "Yeah, work sucks. That's why you need to stop stressing so much." The connecting version sounds like this. "Damn, that sounds heavy. Was it the kind of day that drained you, or the kind that made you feel alone in it?" Do you feel that? One response solves, the other sees. And when she feels seen at that level, her brain quietly registers, "He actually heard me." That lingers. That stays with her. That's when your presence starts echoing in places your words never could. And when you do that, the walls between you start to come down without either of you having to say a word. Number 2, he doesn't rush to impress. He creates emotional safety. Here's the part no one talks about. Most people think attraction grows through performance, but the strongest connection usually grows through relief. Most couples, and most people dating, are trying so hard to be liked that they accidentally become emotionally unavailable in polished packaging. They perform confidence, perform detachment, perform coolness, while their real self stays hidden behind the glass. And she feels that. Because emotional safety is not about being soft all the time. It is about being congruent. What she sees is what she gets. Your nervous system is like a smoke detector. It cannot always tell the difference between actual danger and emotional inconsistency. So when someone's energy feels off, mixed, or calculated, the alarm still goes off. That's why a man who seems perfect on paper can still feel strangely hard to trust. And a man who is honest, grounded, and clear can feel magnetic without doing much at all. So instead of trying to impress her, you become easy to relax around. The disconnecting version sounds like this. I'm good with whatever, doesn't matter to me. But inside, you're hoping she picks you, notices you, reassures you. The connecting version sounds like this. I like being around you, no pressure, I'm just being real with you. That lands differently. Because one creates confusion, the other creates safety. And somewhere inside her, a thought begins to form. I don't have to perform around him. Man, that is rare. That's the shift that turns attraction from adrenaline into trust. And trust is what keeps you on her mind when the night is over. 3. He remembers the small things that most men miss. This is where it gets really interesting. Most people think women remember big gestures. They do, but they replay small moments. Most couples drift because they underestimate how intimacy is actually built. Not in the huge milestone moments, not in the anniversary post, not in the dramatic declaration, but in the tiny 30-second moments where someone realizes, you noticed me. Intimacy isn't built like a fireworks show. It's built like scar tissue in reverse, one small, repaired moment at a time. You remembering that she had a hard meeting, you asking how her sister is doing, you noticing her tone changed before she had to explain it, you bringing up that one thing she said mattered to her 3 weeks ago. That tells her something powerful. Not just he listens, but I exist in his mind even when I'm not in front of him. The disconnecting version is this. She says, I've been nervous about Thursday all week. Thursday comes, you text, hey, what's up? The connecting version is this. Thursday morning you send, hey, I know today mattered to you. Just wanted to say, I'm thinking of you. You've got this. That's not game. That's presence. And her inner world quietly says, I mattered enough to be remembered. Most people in relationships want deeper connection while acting inattentive in the moments that actually create it. But here's what changes everything. Attention is affection when it is consistent. That's when she stops experiencing you as another guy trying to be interesting and starts experiencing you as someone who feels emotionally available and real. 4. He stays present instead of trying to control the moment. And this is the one most couples never figure out. Most people think connection gets stronger when you manage the interaction well. But the real truth is that connection gets stronger when you stay emotionally present inside the interaction, even when it gets uncomfortable. Most people in relationships panic when the energy changes. If she gets quiet, they overtalk. If she gets distant, they chase. If she gets emotional, they try to fix it. If they feel uncertainty, they start grasping for control. That's predictable and human. Because when your attachment system gets activated, control feels safer than presence. It feels like action. It feels like protection. But it usually creates more distance. Not more texting, not more explaining, not more trying to force clarity right now. Presence. That's the thing. If she says, I don't know, I've just been in my head lately, the disconnecting version sounds like, so are you losing interest or what? Just tell me. The connecting version sounds like, got you. You don't have to figure it out this second. I'm here, and I'd rather understand than push. Do you hear the difference? One response makes her manage your anxiety. The other gives her room to stay connected without pressure. And her mind registers, he doesn't make my feelings dangerous. That matters more than most men realize. Because when a woman feels she can be messy, quiet, uncertain, or human around you without being punished for it, you become associated with safety instead of tension. And that's the shift that turns a relationship that feels like a negotiation into one that feels like a refuge. 5. He knows how to turn toward her, especially in small bids for connection. But here's what nobody explains. Women often stop thinking about a man when too many small moments tell them, I'm alone with you. And they keep thinking about a man when small moments keep telling them, you're with me. Most couples do not fall apart because of one huge betrayal. They drift through 100 tiny missed turns. A comment ignored, a sigh not noticed, a vulnerable joke passed over, a bid for closeness answered with distraction. That's how emotional distance forms. Not like a wall, more like dust settling over the relationship until everything feels dimmer than it used to. A bid for connection can sound ridiculously small. Look at this. You won't believe what happened. I had the weirdest dream. Can I tell you something dumb? It sounds small. It isn't. It's her nervous system tapping on the door and asking, "Are you there with me?" The disconnecting version is, "Hold on. Yeah, that's crazy. Mm-hmm," while still looking at your phone. The connecting version is, you look up, you soften, you say, "Wait, tell me again," or, "No, I'm listening." That tiny turn changes the whole emotional climate. This isn't a communication hack. This is just what two emotionally mature people naturally do when they value connection over convenience. And when she feels you consistently turning toward her, something unspoken in her starts relaxing. Maybe I don't have to fight so hard to be met here. That's when your presence becomes a place she returns to in her mind, because with you, she feels less alone beneath the surface. 6. He repairs quickly instead of letting ego create distance. Here's the part that separates boys from men. Most people think being attractive means never messing up. Real connection is built by how you handle it when you do. Most couples are terrible at repair, not because they do not care, but because ego gets there first. Pride, defensiveness, shame, the need to be right, the fear of looking weak. So instead of repairing the rupture, they protect themselves from the discomfort of humility. And the distance grows. Because unresolved tension does not just disappear, it goes underground. Then it becomes tone. Then it becomes patterns. Then one day, both people feel strangely withdrawn and do not know why. Repair is one of the most attractive things a person can learn, not because it is smooth, because it is safe. The disconnecting version sounds like, "I already said sorry, what else do you want from me?" The connecting version sounds like, "You're right, I got defensive. I can see how that landed on you. And if I were in your position, I'd probably feel hurt too." That is powerful. Because apology is not the same as repair. Repair says, your pain matters more to me than protecting my image. Most people in relationships wait for the perfect moment to fix things. But here's what changes everything. Fast, sincere repair keeps emotional scar tissue from forming. And inside her, the thought becomes, we don't have to be perfect to be close. That's the shift that makes a relationship feel strong instead of fragile, and it makes you unforgettable in the healthiest possible way. 7. He has a real life, a real center, and he doesn't abandon himself to keep her. And this one might be the most important of all. Most people think women think about a man constantly when he gives her non-stop attention. Sometimes that creates intensity. But intensity is not the same as depth. Most people in relationships confuse devotion with self-abandonment. They overgive, overtext, overexplain, overadjust, and then quietly resent the fact that they feel invisible. Not because they are too loving, but because their love stopped having a center. That is exhausting to receive. Because if your whole identity starts orbiting her, she does not feel chosen. She feels responsible for your emotional gravity. And that pressure makes connection heavy. But when you are deeply interested without losing yourself, grounded without becoming cold, available without becoming needy, something very different happens. She does not just feel wanted, she feels respect. She feels steadiness. She feels the quiet confidence of someone whose presence is a gift, not a plea. The disconnecting version sounds like, whatever you want is fine. I can change my plans. I just want to make this work. The connecting version sounds like, I care about this, and I care about you, but I'm also someone I stay loyal to. Bro, that hits different. Not distant, not rigid, not pretending not to care. Self-respecting, grounded, real. This isn't a trick for avoiding rejection. This is what it looks like when someone has learned to love without losing themselves in the process. And when a woman feels that from you, something in her often lights up and says, he's solid. He's not trying to become whoever I need. He actually knows who he is. That's magnetic. That's what makes your absence feel meaningful instead of empty. That's what makes her think about you, not because you chased her mind, but because your energy stayed with her after you left. And that's when your partner stops feeling like a problem to manage and starts feeling like a person to come home to. So, if you really want to understand what makes a woman think about you constantly, start here. It's not about becoming more performative. It's about becoming more present, more grounded, more emotionally available, more honest in the ways that actually create connection. Because this is not a checklist. It's an invitation to show up differently. To become the kind of man who does not just trigger attraction, but creates safety. The kind of man who does not just get attention, but leaves a real emotional imprint. The kind of man whose presence calms the nervous system instead of activating old cycles and old wounds. When you internalize this, you stop chasing reactions and start creating trust. And she will feel that difference before she can even explain it. These are not tips for getting into her head. They are the beginning of becoming the kind of partner who feels rare to be with. Because at the end of the day, the people we think about most are usually the people around whom we felt most like ourselves. A woman does not keep thinking about the man who tried hardest to impress her. She keeps thinking about the man who made connection feel safe, real, and impossible to fake. If this hit you at the right time, drop a comment with the number that stood out most to you. And if you want more honest relationship content like this, subscribe. Because real intimacy is not luck, and you can learn it.